Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video, and in this video, we're finally back talking about SASUKE, and here I'll be doing my review for SASUKE 40, which I genuinely cannot believe that we got a SASUKE tournament this good in the modern day. Now, recent SASUKE for me is a very strange thing, where around the time like SASUKE 31, 32, I really just died off on my fandom of SASUKE, became a more casual fan, and through that, a lot of the tournaments just became very samey. And through that, there were very few tournaments I came out of being very high on. Now, in retrospect, considering the fact that I did just rewatch every SASUKE tournament before SASUKE 40, maybe for a video down the road, I've come to appreciate certain modern tournaments, but really, I don't think any of them come close to how I felt after watching SASUKE 40 here. This is an anniversary tournament that finally lived up to the hype. While I was extremely hyped for SASUKE 40, again, seeing the original trailer revealing that Kane Kasugi is back and that Nagano's coming back and Akiyama's coming back, like that did genuinely make me excited. But I always had this lingering thing in my head of like, okay, it's just modern SASUKE, so it can't be that good, right? And again, I was wrong. Again, this tournament was so great for most of its run. I do have minor nitpicks here and there, but I think this is a tournament that, again, like right after watching it, I am on this pretty big high of, I think this is a top tier SASUKE tournament here. Debatably top 5, definitely top 10 SASUKE tournaments of all time. I think this is a great tournament, despite the typical issues with editing and some production decisions. But again, to run through why, I'll be running through the tournament from beginning to end, starting off with stage 1, which straight up, let's just get this out of the way now. A major issue I have here is the fact that the course remained exactly the same from the last tournament. And that does play into the reason why we get such success on this course. But really, stage 1 has been the same ever since SASUKE 35. And again, it is a fine stage 1, but one that, again, is getting pretty stale at this point. I personally don't like the quad step to rolling hill combo. I think it has gotten pretty monotonous. The silk slider is just a lame obstacle, and while it did do more damage here, I still don't particularly like it. Fishbone Kai and Dragon Glider I still like, though Dragon Glider in particular did cause some wonky issues on this tournament. And a tackle into warp wall combo is something that I don't mind, though I still hate the double warp wall, where I just feel like it's entirely pointless. It feels like them just adding filler to the course. So again, stage 1 is still pretty mundane here in terms of the overall course design, though we did get some great results with it. Now, stage 1 does start in the typical way where, again, we get a lot of celebrities early on, all of which failing at the Dragon Glider or before. Surprisingly, they skipped over Torisawa, which I found to be an interesting choice. And instead, they focused on these idol girls that one did make it to the Dragon Glider, so good on her. But again, mostly mundane runs early on. But the first major run comes from Koji Saikawa, who has cleared in the last few tournaments, and he does once again clear right away here, being the 10th runner of the day with 26 seconds left on the clock. I think really showing you right away that, again, this is a relatively easy first stage. Again, getting stage 1 off to a good start in the most Inui way possible, where, again, he typically likes to have a designated person that he knows is going to clear go early so that he can have a clear early on. So again, Saikawa's now that person, so not surprised that he cleared. But next up, we get this pretty shocking run from a junior high student in Nakashima Yuta, who out of nowhere just clears the Dragon Glider and almost clears the stage. Or I feel like he's probably going to be someone to watch for future tournaments. But then we get to something that was pretty cool to see, in that the next competitor ends up being Kaio Nagano, Makoto Nagano's 13-year-old son, which is just so surreal, considering I remember watching SASUKE 23 live, and Kaio was still infant at that point, and it's so mind-blowing to think that his son is now running the course, though doesn't end up getting a good result here, filling at the rolling hill, but again, could be an interesting competitor to see back down the road. Afterwards, we get our first set of fast forwards with a lot of celebrities here. But then we get to the next serious run here in Yoshinori Issa, former Black Tiger, and he does clear very easily. Kind of anticlimactic, actually. Like, again, just a very easy, solid run. But he gets followed up by another massive fast forward. This one containing a lot of the women that weren't expected to do well, like Karen, who actually gets to the fishbone, so good on her. Also, we end up seeing the SASUKE Trials competitors take on the course, end up sadly failing the first stage, with first place at the Trials actually failing the rolling hill, which is pretty tragic. But the next series run ends with coming from Daisuke Matsuda, who we've seen numerous times now. Again, I actually never realized like how prominent he is in recent Sasuke tournaments where they literally show his run every time and always set him up to potentially clear, and it seemed like they were doing that again, only for him to fail the fishbone, which you see him instantly being heartbroken. And again, you gotta feel for the guy. I feel like he's been so close so many times, and he trains so hard. He has so many obstacles in his backyard. It's like, it is just kind of sad to see him not make it here. But after this, we get a series of strong competitors in the 40s here, starting off with a couple of the celebrities that have cleared in recent tournaments. We get Hideki Ajima, who cleared stage 1 last time, but failed the rolling long, and here he does end up surprisingly failed the dragon glider. But more shockingly is that he's followed up by Rine Sugeta, who has cleared multiple times in the past, having never failed stage 1, and here he ends up failing the dragon glider as well, but this ends up being the first time we see the dragon glider's second railing derail, and this ends up happening pretty often in this tournament, which I don't feel like this has happened that often before. So it definitely feels like a weird design flaw with just this specific version of the dragon glider that kind of feels BS here. And also in the replay, you end up noticing that most of these people that end up failing in this way are people that could have easily made the jump if they just like instantly went for it, but obviously they were caught off guard by the bar derailing, so they wouldn't know that. But again, he ends up failing here. That's pretty shocking. But following this, we get a long series of fast forwards of, again, some pretty former elite competitors that was just kind of weird to see get skipped here. And I know people are upset over the editing of the season in terms of like these people being skipped here, some future clears being skipped. I personally don't really have as much of an issue with these sort of things. While ideally, yes, I would have liked to see Shunsuke and Kano and Hashimoto's runs, I also understand that most casual viewers don't really care as much and do care more about the celebrities. Though I will say that considering most of these are fails here, I feel like these are ones I definitely would have liked to see more than the later clears. But the fast forward does start off with a clear though, with Shunsuke Nagasaki finally clearing the dragon glider and ends up clearing the stage, which again, great to see him get over that hurdle and having failed the dragon glider a ridiculous number of times in recent tournaments. And that's followed up by Kano, who does the same thing, who after having failed on dragon glider so many times at this point has finally cleared it. But unlike Shunsuke, he ends up timing out the warp wall, which I did find that to be underwhelming, though again, hopefully next time with him getting the dragon glider behind him, maybe he can finally clear. But then the most shocking fast forward to me, I think of the entire tournament probably, is the fact that we fast forward over Hashimoto, who, Koji Hashimoto is someone that was a really big name. Like during the 24 through 27 tournaments, again, he made it to the final stage in 24. He was a very consistent competitor after that, but then like retired after 29 explicitly, which I believe has been confirmed due to the fact that he got scoliosis or something to that nature. But again, he came back here. This really big return in my eyes, but again, they just skip him over, which again can be underwhelming here. But he does end up failing the fishbone, which again was also underwhelming to see. Again, I really was hoping that he would do well, especially considering the massive success on this tournament, but considering the fact that he hasn't been on stage 1 since Sasuke 29, which looking back at that course, the only obstacle that is here from that tournament is literally the double warp wall. It's not that big of a surprise to see him fail one of the newer obstacles here. But then following that, we also see Iketani get fast forwarded, failing the silk slider, which is kind of ironic to see him do so poorly when we have his rival later on do much better. But then we get more comedian runs here. Again, we get the return of Kasuga, who ends up failing the steps once again. We get Fuwa-chan, who last time had stickers of Yamada on her breasts, which was weird. But this time she also puts one on her butt. It's like, what are we doing? But she ends up failing the fishbone. But then we finally get to the Black Tigers, where we start off with, I believe, a new Black Tiger in Hayato Takasuka, who ends up barely clearing here. Again, struggled on the warp wall, but eventually got it. Then we follow that up with one of the favorites to win in my eyes at this point, Yoshiyuki Yamamoto, who ends up dominating the stage 1 here, 30 seconds left on the clock. Again, being a guy who's never failed before stage 3 and doesn't here either. So I feel like Yoshiyuki's definitely someone that really just continues to show his consistency on the course here. Finally, this video get more fast forwards leading up to Masashi Hyoki, who, again, standard run here, clears, not unexpected. Again, he's a pretty consistent competitor, never really expected him to fail. But this is the part of the show where we start to really focus on a lot of celebrities and comedians, and I did feel like this segment dragged on, though obviously, again, like I understand that most of the casual audience is probably into this sort of thing, and actually probably knows who these people are, which I don't. Though I did know one of the people here, and that was Akira Omori's return here. Obviously the finalist from Sasuke's 1, 2, and 3. Obviously didn't expect him to do well considering That was literally 25 years ago, but he at least got through Rolling Hill, so at least there's that. Failed the Silk Slider. But following this, we get this big YouTuber in Hikakin who, again, got a lot of focus last time, gets a lot of focus here, not surprising. Ends up having a better run than I expected. He gets to the Dragon Glider, times out there, but again, good on him, I guess. But then we get to a run that I actually was kind of mind blown that he was here, and that is a run from the vocalist of Golden Bomber, Sho Kyurin, who, again, Kenji Darvish couldn't be here this tournament, I believe due to COVID. So it looks like they brought in Sho instead. And I just assumed that Sho would be someone that's like too busy to do Sasuke, but he does appear here. Again, he fails the Rolling Hill, so it's like, whatever, I guess. But again, I thought it was cool to see him there. But following this, we got a lot of focus on the comedian that imitates Akiyama and has for the last couple tournaments. But this ends up being pretty funny, though, considering Akiyama is actually there. And we do have Akiyama playing into the bit, which I thought was kind of fun. And we have the comedian bowing to Akiyama and Akiyama bowing back. And then we have Akiyama bestowing him his prop crabs. And I thought that was a kind of funny moment. But strangely, this is like a couple runs before their run, where we get a couple more comedians along the way before getting to him. And again, this comedian is part of a duo, both of them having failed this same obstacle in the last two tournaments, one failing Dragon Glider and he himself failing the Rolling Hill, and both of them talk about wanting to get past those obstacles, only for both of them to do worse this time, which I found funny, where the other guy fails the fishbone and he himself fails even earlier on the Rolling Hill. So we do get some fun editing with Akiyama's theme playing during his run, only for it to cut out the second he fails. Like, I thought a lot of this was kind of fun, even though it's containing these comedians I don't know who they are. But then we get to what ends up being the fastest clear of Stage 1 for today, which comes from Hayate Kajihara, who, again, has also been a very consistent competitor, has never failed Stage 1 before, but again, he ends up dominating Stage 1 here. Again, 38 seconds left on the clock is ridiculous. So again, really impressive run from him. And then we follow this up with the ABCZ guy, Ryoichi Sukada, who, again, has been competing since Sasuke 31, and was happy to see him clear here. Again, he's been failing Stage 1 for a while now, since Sasuke 34, so again, happy to see him get back to Stage 2. But following this, we get to, again, one of the more controversial aspects of this tournament, and the fact that we end up getting a long series of fast-forwarded clears here. We get 6 fast-forwarded clears in a row, all from pretty notable names. We get the return of Jun Sato after missing out last tournament. He clears with 35 seconds on the clock. We get Tada clearing, we got Araki clearing, we got Kitaro clearing, we got Tomohiro Muto clearing, who made the Stage 3 last time. We get Suzuki clearing, the modern Sasuke Sensei. And again, like, these are all decently big names that all get fast forwarded here. And again, I personally don't mind it. I am someone that I don't mind fast forwarding clears, especially when in stages 1 and 2. I do feel like clears are typically kind of boring to see over and over and over again. So I personally don't mind it, but again, I understand why some people do. But this is also just the consequence of there being a ridiculous number of clears in this tournament. Again, they end up being 24 stage 1 clears. But following this, we do get back to the celebrities here with Kan Yutaka, again, Golden Bomber guitarist, who actually almost cleared last time, which was mind-blowing to me. And I actually thought, again, considering the number of clears here, I actually thought there was a chance he could actually do it here, though he ends up messing up the fishbone, really rushing through it. He gets taken out there, which was underwhelming. But following this, we end up getting to the last 5 women of Stage 1 here, all that run in a row. And here we do get some Sasuke history. Now, first up, we do get Ando Miki, who fails the fishbone. Again, not a super notable run, but that's followed by Ayano, who has been set up to clear for so long now. It's mind-blowing to me that it actually took this long for her to do it. But again, we've been in this position where in Sasuke, I believe 31, she cleared the warp wall, but timed out. Then following that, in like recent tournaments, she's been propped up as like the person that is going to clear Stage 1, but then just never does. Yet here she finally does it, clearing with 12 seconds on the clock. Mind you, again, the women get more time, but still, again, really solid run from Ayano here. Happy to see a Japanese woman clear Stage 1 for the first time since Chie Tanabe. So again, like, I thought this was a great moment. And following this up, we surprisingly get 2 fast forwards from the 2 international women on the course, in Stephanie Edelman and, shockingly to me, Jessie Graff, who both get fast forwarded in their clears here. 2 more women clearing here. Insane that we're getting 3 women in Stage 2. Completely unprecedented. Even within American Ninja Warrior, that's never happened. So the fact that we got 3 women to clear Sasuke's Stage 1, that's insane to me. But we followed this up with a couple sports stars in a row. First of which being this former baseball player that fails the Dragon Glider. I thought that was kind of dull. But then we get a shocking clear here from a Olympic rugby player, Yoshikazu Fujita, who barely clears the Dragon Glider, but then also barely clears the course with 0.6 seconds left. Like, I thought that was a really surprising run there. But then we get to, I guess, the biggest celebrity on the show at this point, and that being Hikaru Iwamoto, the leader of Snowman, who again has been doing very well in recent tournaments. He's cleared stage 1 the last 2 times. And I was expecting that here. However, he ends up having one of the most shocking runs of stage 1 here, having his Bardus rail at the end of the Dragon Glider. And it is really strange how it feels like a lot of these celebrities end up getting screwed over on the Dragon Glider. You would think that they would want these celebrities to clear and would possibly give him reruns for situations like this, but I guess not. So again, pretty shocking end to his run. But following this, we do get a fast forward from Oliver Edelman, the husband of Stephanie, and he ends up clearing here as well. But then we get to the run I've been waiting for. Again, this is something that I just thought was so insane that this is actually happening, something that I've been wanting to happen ever since I started watching Sasuke, and that is the return of Kane Kasugi. And I just could not believe that they actually got him back here. Now, I mean, Kane has made comments in recent years that he would like to sometime participate, but I just never thought they would actually get him. And the fact that they actually finally got him for a tournament, and he took it super seriously. Like, he's been training for 5 to 6 months, training with Ryo Matachi and Hioki, and the fact that he's taking this so seriously, I was so happy to see here. Though I will say I was very worried, considering I have watched his videos of him training, and while he was very skilled still, at the age of 48, he was always having trouble with the Dragon Glider, and I was definitely expecting him to fail the Dragon Glider here, but he actually clears, breaking the record of oldest stage 1 clear ever at the age of 48. Again, insane run here. Like, I just genuinely got giddy at this moment. Again, like, I cannot believe we're in a world where Kane Kasugi is back on Sasuke 21 years after his last appearance and actually still clears stage 1. Like, to me, this was definitely the highlight of the entire tournament for me. Considering Sasuke 8 has always been one of my favorite tournaments, a lot of that due to Kane Kasugi. And to see that he really hasn't lost it in that time is, again, just insane to see. But following this, we get the last, like, kind of irrelevant run of the tournament from someone that we don't really know, from an Olympic skier, fails the Dragon Glider, whatever. But then again, the final 8 runs of stage 1 all come from pretty notable names. I mean, the final 4 being the 4 champions. We obviously have Shingo and Yamada as the 2 other all-stars competing, and then we have 2 of the more elite competitors, starting it off with Kawaguchi, who I'm surprised they gave this high of a number to, considering he's been consistently failing the warp wall for the last 3 tournaments. So I did find it kind of a weird choice that he's still at number 93, yet we had that massive batch in the 70s of all people that were doing well recently, but whatever. Kawaguchi, again, I was so worried here that he was going to fail the warp wall again. It did definitely feel like he was going to, where he failed his first attempt. So he gets on his second. We do see him get really emotional at the top of the wall, and again, that was a great moment. So again, happy to see him move on. But then we get to Ryo Matachi, and this was such a weird run. I mean, really, a lot of Ryo's content in this tournament had been the fact that I guess him and Kane are, like, extremely close from training, and it felt like this was a tournament, like, pretty primed for Ryo to do well. Again, he had just come off of 2 stage 1 clears in the previous 2 tournaments, failed a swing edge in the last turn, but outside that, like, he should be primed to do well in stage 3, yet he ends up failing the rolling hill. And it's funny because, like, we saw Kane, like, really rush through the quad steps and rolling hill, which I thought was pretty precarious, but we see Ryo do the exact same thing and ends up failing at it, which, again, another one of the more shocking runs of the tournament. Though, again, really strange to see that immediately afterwards, we see, like, Kane consoling Ryo and Kane himself crying over Ryo's fail. It's, again, like, this is such a weird bromance I never thought would ever happen, is Ryo Matachi and Kane Kasugi. But then we get to another one of the major highlights of the tournament. We get to Yamamoto, where I will say I was kind of prepped for him to clear, where based on the trailer, we did get this shot of Nagano crying in happiness over someone's assumed clear, and it clearly took place towards the end of stage 1, to where, again, like, it's not going to be Yamada. So again, like, I felt like, okay, it's probably Yamamoto, but still, to actually see it happen here was really great. And again, great reaction from Nagano, with him just being so excited. Also, this is Yamamoto tying the record with Kane for oldest stage 1 clear. I believe he is slightly older. So again, really great to see Yamamoto finally clear stage 1 again. Again, it's been 9 straight stage 1 fails. So again, I thought this was great. Again, something else to really prop up this anniversary tournament here. But sadly, that success couldn't follow the rest of the All-Stars, though I will say all of them had adequate runs here. I mean, we start off with Yamada, who I will say, like, I kind of felt for Yamada here in the sense that, like, I feel like Yamada in recent years has kind of become resolute in the fact that he's not going to clear stage 1. Like, obviously, he is 57 now, and watching him in 38 and 39, you could tell he was just kind of out there for fun. However, I think him seeing Yamamoto clear right before him kind of gave him hope. And here we do see him, like, actually take it seriously again, and he fails the fishbone when rushing into it and ends up yelling out really loud, and we have Nagano having to console him. And again, I thought this was kind of just a weird throwback here, like kind of feeling like the old Yamada here that I thought was gone. And to be fair, it should have been gone considering, again, like, I don't think anyone really thought Yamada was going to clear stage 1, but I did find this to be an interesting scene there. But we followed it up with, again, we're at the 4 champions. So we start off with Akiyama, who, again, I thought was another one of the bigger gets for this tournament. Again, really cool to see Akiyama back. I never had faith in him clearing. I remember seeing a few tournaments back that there was like this special that Akiyama participated in, and he failed the quad step to rolling heel combos. So again, didn't really have high hopes here, but he does clear that, and then also ends up clearing the fishbone, which was a surprise to me. But he ends up strangely failing the jump to the dragon glider, which I actually thought was kind of underwhelming. I wish he did at least make the grab there. I think him failing the jump kind of feels like he's back at the point where he was failing the jump hang over and over again, where he can't get a good trampoline jump. So I feel like that's kind of an underwhelming like place to leave off Akiyama at for me, but decent run there. We follow that up with the return of Nagano, who I thought had the perfect run for Nagano here, where, again, never expected him to clear. I mean, he is, again, 50 years old at this point. He's also just clearly not in the shape he used to be, and we do see him throughout this run get pretty exhausted, though. Again, I thought his 38 run was kind of underwhelming to see him just lose his grip on the dragon glider. So again, he was able to redeem that. He passed the dragon glider this time, only the timeout at the warp wall. Again, perfectly fine. I thought that was a perfect outcome for Nagano here. And we get the final 2 runs of the tournament, both being the last 2 champions. We got Arushihara and we got Morimoto, both clearing. Pretty uneventful clears. Again, kind of expected, though really happy to see both of them move on. Though at this point, we're 3 hours into this broadcast. Again, this 5-hour broadcast, which, considering we had 24 stage 1 clears, it made it pretty clear we were going to get a lot of fast forwards moving forward. And with that, let's jump to stage 2, where, again, they literally just jump right into it. They just go straight to Saikawa, right at the start of the stage. But again, I do want to stop down and talk about the stage itself, which is, again, exactly the same. Now, they did change the name of the Spider Walk to the Spider Run because I believe copyright issues. But outside of that, again, exactly same stage 2. It's boring. I really don't like the stage 2. And while the results here are actually not bad, I still think it's not an interesting course. Though they did lessen the time limit by 5 seconds, I do think that greatly added to the stage with a lot of timeouts, a lot of really close clears. Though, to be fair, we didn't see a lot of those close clears. But again, we start off with Saikawa, who, again, I was fully expecting to clear here. If not, at least make it to the tail end of the stage, like make it to the final wall at the wall lift. But he strangely ends up failing the conveyor. Despite having like a really fast pace up to that point, he just like actually genuinely fails the conveyor, which was a really bizarre ending to his run. But following that, we do get the first clear of the night with Issa having a pretty solid run, no real slip-ups there. But following this, we do get a few fast forwards here. Again, like stage 2 ends up containing a lot of fast forwards, and literally every stage 2 clear outside of Issa here gets fast forwarded, which I don't personally mind, considering, again, I just think this course is boring, but I can definitely see the criticism with that decision. Though we also end up getting some fails here. Fast forwarded from the likes of Nagasaki, shockingly failing the spider drop again, which is like, I don't know what's up with him in the spider walk at this point. When we also get Takasuka, the other black tiger that fails the spider run, only for us to then fast forward through Yoshiyuki's clear of stage 2. But then we cut to Hyoki, who I was fully expecting to clear here. Again, Hyoki's someone that's pretty consistent. I mean, while he has timed down stage 2 in the past, it didn't really feel like this was a tournament where that was going to happen, especially considering we see a wide range of clears later on. But surprisingly, he times out at the backstream of all points. Again, really weird that he fails there. I mean, he barely even clears the spider drop. He almost fails that in itself. But yeah, the backstream ends up taking him out here, which was, again, the first time I believe we've seen the backstream do any damage in recent tournaments. But then we follow this up with, again, another fast forward of Kajihara clearing with 25 seconds on the clock, which is like, how? But then we get to ABCZ guy, Sukada, who talks about wanting to finally beat the salmon ladder. And what do you know? He finally beats the salmon ladder. Though it is funny that he misses the jump initially to the salmon ladder, which we do see a lot of other people do in this tournament as well, which I don't know if they placed it higher or if it was just due to inexperience, considering it was a lot of these people who haven't faced off against the rolling log before, and I do think dizziness obviously played a factor there. But and Tsukada clears salmon ladder, only to time out the backstream. Not super shocking there. But then again, we get the massive batch of fast forwards here. Again, the exact same group of people that as last time. Jun Sato, Tada, Araki, Kitaro, Muto, Suzuki. They all clear the stage. Fast forward to here. Strangely, both Kitaro and Suzuki clear with less than a second on the clock, which I do think those runs could have been interesting to see. But again, I don't really have that much of an issue with them skipping these clears. But then we get to Ayano. Again, the three women of stage 2 all in a row here. Ayano first, who I was actually expecting to see fail the salmon ladder, but she actually makes it through that, only to then fail the spider drop, which I was hoping she would clear just to kind of like feel like revenge for Chi Tanabe, who also failed the spider walk. Following this again, we get fast forwards of Stephanie and Jessie Graff. Mind blowing to me that they actually fast forwarded Jessie Graff here, who both time out. Where again, Stephanie, again, like a more unknown quantity to me. I know she's done well in Ninja Warrior Germany. I haven't really seen her in action, so I wasn't that surprised to see her fill the wall lift. But Jessie Graff in particular, again, timing out at the conveyor, and again, them not even showing her run in full was just mind blowing to me. Now, her failing stage 2 is not super unexpected, as I do feel like Jessie Graff is not at the peak that she used to be. I feel like in Sasuke's 34 and 37, she was still doing relatively well on A&W. We're at the point now, though, where Jessie Graff hasn't had a good season on A&W in a while. So again, a stage 2 timeout wasn't out of the cards, but the fact that she does, and again, they fast forward her was weird. But following this, again, we see the rugby player fail the rolling log. We fast forward through Oliver, who times out the wall lift as well, which in turn means all the internationals are out of the tournament at this point. But then we get to Kane Kasugi, who I will say I did not think he was passing stage 2. It would have been great. It would have been cool, but never thought it was going to happen. And instantly we do see him losing a lot of time early on. I mean, he struggles to even get the rolling log to roll. He ends up really struggling through the salmon ladder Kudari, really barely getting each rung, and he does eventually time out at the backstream. But again, solid run here. Again, like the fact that he even cleared stage 1 is enough for me. I thought this was a great run for him. And we follow this up with a fast forward of Kawaguchi clearing with 0.09 seconds on the clock, which again, how is this run not shown? Out of the clears that were fast forwarded here, I feel like this is the one in particular that I would have really liked to see. But then we get to the final run shown in stage 2, which is weird considering there's still 3 runs left, but we have Shingo Yamamoto, who ends up just having a solid run here. Again, I never expected him to clear. I did think he was going to time out again, but we do see him finally clearing the backstream, an obstacle he had never passed before, having failed it both times he attempted it in the past, and got to the conveyor. So again, cool. Good on Yamamoto. Again, nice run for him across this tournament as well. But then we follow that up with 2 fast forwards of the 2 champions, both clearing. Yuji with 0.4 seconds on the clock, so again, barely making it. But then, shockingly, you get a skip of Morimoto, which I don't think that's happened since his first Kanten-Seiha, so I felt like that was an interesting choice, but again, he clears. And with that, we end up breaking the record here for most stage 2 clears with 12. With 7 of those people being the same people that made the stage 3 last time. And really, again, I think this just further shows you that we really need a change in stage 2. Well, yes, it did technically take out half the people that participated in it, which is actually not a bad rate for stage 2 in general. I do feel like still, it feels like the same people are getting the stage 3 every time, and it's getting kind of dull. But either way, we get to stage 3, where it's the same course again. Though again, like the spider walk, we do have the cliffhanger dimension strangely being renamed to the cliff dimension. I believe because again, copyright issues with the word cliffhanger for some reason. But again, like a fine stage 3. I mean, we didn't see anyone beat it last time, but obviously someone's gonna beat it this time, considering it's not that much more difficult than Sasuke 38's. By the way, we start off with Issa, who we really spend a lot of time on him here, where he ends up wasting a lot of time on the Sidewinder, where he always like prepares for his jump only from the like backing down over and over and over again. But he does get this great save on the final jump where he technically misses, ends up like falling onto the platform anyway. But either way, he ends up failing the swing edge once again, which I did think was pretty shocking. But then we get to Yoshiyuki Yamamoto, who, again, coming into this tournament, I had 3 people that I thought could clear stage 3. Spoiler alert, those were the 3 people that did. But again, I had high hopes for Yoshiyuki here, and he does do very well here. Really no issues with the entire course. Obviously meaning we're getting to see the new final stage. Though I feel like something that is weird about this, and like this is just in general with the entire concept of the Black Tigers, it is weird that most of his interview was actually just Yamada speaking into the mic and getting emotional. It's really just weird how Yamada's just taking the spotlight away from him. That's something I don't particularly like, but again, it's Yamada, so what do you expect? But following this, we do get some fast forwards. We do get Kajihara failing the second cliffhanger transfer this time. It just seemed like he completely mistimed it. But then we see Jun Sato, who I was surprised he failed the first cliffhanger jump, which I was kind of surprised considering he's been consistently making it to the second jump recently. So again, this felt like a back step for him. But then we finally get a run shown from Tada, who, again, another person I was expecting to possibly make it to the final stage. There was also another person that, like, does TBS just like not like him, or does Inui not like him? Like, it is kind of weird how they portray Tada on the show, where even last time where he was the last man standing, they like skipped him until his final run, stage 3. And here, same thing. It's like they really only show him when he's necessary, like mid-cutting him even, starting him off at the cliffhanger, which he clears, obviously clears the vertical limit. Though he does end up struggling on the pipe slider in a position where, like, I actually thought maybe there was a chance he would fail here. Like, I really thought the pipe slider was an obstacle that everyone had gamed at this point, considering you should know how to do it if you're thinking you're going to get this far, considering how, like, iconic of an obstacle it is. But again, it did seem like the pipe was sliding back a lot. Either way, Tada still clears despite that. Yeah, not super surprising. And we do follow that up with Araki getting fast forward, failing the second transfer on the cliffhanger dimension. But then we get to Kitaru, who gets his run partially shown here. Again, similar in a way to Tada, where they start his run at the swing edge. So I was thinking, okay, he's clearing, right? Kitaru's got to clear. I mean, again, like, one, I will also say, really weird that he failed the Sidewinder last tournament, and they literally showed his fail on the Sidewinder last tournament, only for them to skip beyond the Sidewinder, which is just weird in itself. But also, at the point where he's at the swing edge, like, this is his wheelhouse. Like, he's a former Unkley member. Like, he's known for being a rock climber. It's like he's pretty set at that point in the stage, and we do see him just really breeze through swing edge, cliffhanger dimension, vertical limit. But then we get to the pipe slider, and again, like, he, like Tada, struggles there, where the pipe keeps on sliding back, which I will say is also just weird from Kitaru, who is someone that, again, like, was training on Muscle Park quite a bit. Again, they had a pipe slider there. You would think he would know how to do pipe slider. Yeah, he ends up failing dismount here, which, again, probably not one of the more shocking fails of the tournament for me. Considering it just felt like really out of the blue and just really felt like him choking here. But following this, we get more fast forwards. Both Muto and Suzuki get fast forwarded, failing the Sidewinder again for both of them, which is like, how? Like, I mean, Muto, it's like, we don't really know his skills, so it's like, I guess that's fine. But like, Suzuki's such a weird Sasuke figure to me, where it's like, he's made it to stage 3 now 4 times and has somehow never made it past the Sidewinder. But then we get the full run shown of Kawaguchi, who initially I was thinking, okay, maybe he's going to clear. Maybe that's why they're showing his full run. But they end up showing him practicing the swing edge a lot in his initial package. That made me think, okay, maybe it's just a swing edge fail. But then he makes the first transfer. I'm like, okay, we're good. He's going to clear the entire stage, only for him to then fail the second transfer, which again, we haven't seen before. But that really came out of the blue. But following this, we get Arishihara, again, back on stage 3 again. I believe now the oldest person to make it to stage 3, if not tied with Suzuki. And I mean, this is the same Yuji we've seen in the last few stage 3 attempts. I mean, he easily gets through the early portions of the stage. He clears the cliffhanger dimension despite actually having some pretty poor timing, but clears despite that. But then he sadly ends up failing the vertical limit once again, which again just sucks here. It sucks that the one time he clears the vertical limit, he has that very fluky pipe slider fail. But again, it's disappointing to see him go out that way. Though still very strong run for a guy that's 44 now. But I just really thought he could make the final here. But then we end stage 3 with Morimoto, which, I mean, come on, obviously he's going to clear. I mean, there was never any doubt in my mind. Easy clear. Ties Nagano's record now of 5 final stage appearances. And I would not be surprised if he breaks it next tournament, but we will see. But then we get to the final stage, and here we do get the reveal of what the final stage is, which we already knew about the salmon ladder and rope climb staying the same. It was just a matter of what is that first obstacle, which ends up being speed climbing, which again, we assumed it was some sort of rock climbing obstacle, but I will say this was actually a bit different than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a more standard rock climb, like maybe a line with free climbing from Sasuke 1, but this ends up being more so in line with speed climbing. And through that has like these different shaped handholds, and yeah, like it was a fine addition here. Definitely slower than the spider walk, so it does make this final stage a bit tougher. And I did enjoy how this sequence was presented, where it very much reminded me of Sasuke 25, where after the reveal of the ultimate cliffhanger, we see a lot of audience reactions to the ultimate cliffhanger and a lot of talk about like how are we ever going to clear this, which we see that with this final stage, though it doesn't end up being as difficult as we thought. But again, we start the runs, which at this point it is already starting to rain, which is obviously not a great sign. But we started off with Yoshiyuki, who ends up having a solid run here. I mean, he is pretty fast during the climbing section and ends up doing really well through like 2/3 of the salmon ladder, though he ends up really botching the top of it to where he ends up losing a lot of time and eventually times out right as he gets to the rope. But again, solid run from Yoshiyuki. Would not be surprised to see him make it back here again. And again, I would not be surprised if he eventually wins it all, but again, we'll have to see. Then we got the Tada, who I will say his run here overall did underwhelm me. I feel like Tada is someone that I would have expected to have improved since 37. Instead, he's actually kind of worse, if not at least on the same level, but he definitely struggled here. He was slower on the climbing, the slowest of the three, and then struggles on the salmon ladder right away. And again, I believe doesn't even make it as far as he did last time. So again, I thought that was an underwhelming run there. But then we wrap it up with Morimoto, who again, like obviously was going to make it the furthest of the bunch, but I did not expect him to make it as far as he did, where he ends up having a near flawless salmon ladder. By the time he gets to the rope, I believe he still had like 16 seconds left. So I was thinking like, oh my God, is Morimoto actually going to clear here? But then he ends up timing out at the very top, which is just tragic to see. Again, very reminiscent of like Nagano's 12 fail. Realistically, I mean, he completely missed the button, and even by the time he reached, I believe time was already out. But still, it felt very reminiscent to that, reminiscent to his 36 fail. Like he was just so close. He was at the very top of the tower, though I think this is the perfect way to end this tournament. Now, I mean, I think there could be an argument that, okay, maybe him achieving his third Kanzen Seiya, again, breaking that record would have been the perfect ending to the 40th tournament ever. Again, a tournament that broke so many records as is. Though I also feel like Morimoto getting so close and failing was also good enough as well. And I do also feel like, again, like if we got a clear here, another Kanzen Seiya after only 2 tournaments, that would have been very underwhelming in my eyes. So I'm kind of like fine with Morimoto not winning here, especially considering like I'm pretty confident he'll do it again within the next few tournaments anyway. But again, there we go. That's all of Sasuke 40. Again, an insane tournament. I love this tournament for most of its run. Again, I did think there were points in stage 1 where we got very celebrity heavy. Again, you can argue that the fast forwards were enough to harm the overall tournament, but like I just had such a fun ride with this tournament. And again, coming off of having just rewatched Sasuke's 1 through 39 in the last month or so, it's really made me grow in appreciation once again for Sasuke, and this really felt like the ending to this big journey of this big rewatch of the entire series, the series that I grew up and loved as a kid. And I felt like this really paid off all of that in a really satisfying way. Again, having Kane and Shingo clear stage 1, having the likes of Narushihara make a deep run in stage 3, having still shocking runs here and there, while also still having decent results along the way, while also getting a near Kanzen Seiya from Morimoto. I mean, to me, this was really just a near perfect tournament. I think by far the best Inui tournament, and I think up there with some of the all-time great Sasuke tournaments. But there we go. I mean, those are my thoughts on Sasuke 40. Obviously, I'll be back next year where we'll probably get Sasuke 41 around the same time. However, something that I'm very happy to announce here, that I've obviously alluded to so far, I've rewatched all 39 tournaments of Sasuke before this, and obviously with Sasuke 40 just happening, again, the 40th tournament, it's the perfect time to finally do my Sasuke tournament ranking. Something I've been wanting to do ever since I started this channel. But again, I finally have done the research to be able to rank every Sasuke tournament once again. So that'll be a video coming up at some point down the road. Again, I don't know exactly when, but again, at some point before Sasuke 41, hopefully within the next few months, we'll see. My ranking of every Sasuke tournament will be coming out. And again, that should be really fun. And to be honest, this rewatch of Sasuke's really made me want to potentially go back and watch Kunoichi again. Maybe watch Viking, potentially do videos on those, so maybe I can do those at some point, but again, those will be even further down the road. But still, I am definitely on this Sasuke high at this point that I would like to do at least a few more videos before it goes away, but that is my review of Sasuke 40. Thank you for watching.